GingerGM.
Well, hi everyone. In this video I'm continuing my analysis of my last chess tournament, the British Chess Championships, and this is the rounds 6 game, I think, let me get that right, out of 9. So we're getting to the last 4 games, and at this moment in the competition I'm only half a point behind the leader being the legendary Mickey Adams, who is just half a point ahead of me. So this is a massive game. This is maybe a great opportunity. If I get a result here with black, I mean a win would quite possibly put me in first place. I have a chance to win the British. And my opponent is the lovable, likeable Stephen Gordon, Grandmaster Stephen Gordon, who I've known for a very long time, one of the nicest guys in chess and an extremely strong player. He's now gone professional, as in he's playing full time, and he'd been quite warmed up for this tournament. On the other hand, I hadn't played for a while. Do you like the way I'm getting my excuses in? And it was going to be an exciting encounter because we've played maybe, I don't know, 4 times before, often at the British Championships, and I've scored pretty well against him at the British before. I'd had, I think, 2 occasions when I was black, could be wrong, but I think I got 1.5 out of those 2, and I don't know, I mean, I hope maybe I'm just remembering the wins, but I could remember when I was preparing for this game that I'd played the King's Indian Defence against him on the other couple of times, and I'd won some nice games. And that's why I decided upon the opening in this game. After knight to f3, I mean, it was a big moment here. I mean, should I, before the game when you're preparing, it's always one of those things. Should you play, what should you do? And obviously my normal opening is the Dutch, which we'll talk about this later on, why I did or didn't play this. But instead, this time I played knight to f6, and my 2 main openings are the Dutch, number 1, and the King's Indian Defence. And it's, obviously hindsight is lovely. Now, I had the same, I mean, just going back, I had the same thing, the Swiss, another very important round. It was in Switzerland, the Switzerland Open competition years ago when I was playing Korchnoi, and I had to decide then whether to play this or 1f5, and in that game I played the King's Indian Defence, and I managed to beat Korchnoi in about 30 moves, and I won the competition. So I had these kind of ideas going through my head for some reason, but of course I've had some great results with the King's Indian. And the thing was, Stephen's a great player, very good at every area of the game. Weaknesses wise, you've got to try to find them, and the only thing I would say that I've done well in the past is that when I've attacked him, when I've got him in messy positions where I've got the initiative, I've done very well. So you can do that obviously in the Dutch, but in the King's Indian, in the last times I played it, I managed to do this extremely well, and I gained very good positions. Now Stephen played g3 here, and this was a very clever decision, already getting me out of anything I've prepared in the mornings. I was only expecting main lines, I didn't look at g3 systems at all, which is the pan off. So already I'm sort of on my own, so I'm a little bit deflated here. And after the game, Stephen basically told me, and the reason I'm talking a lot about this at the start is quite critical psychological wise. These are factors that will make the difference when you guys play. And he told me afterwards that he just wanted to avoid any complications, and he wanted to get as simple as game as possible, positional game, where he's possibly stronger than me. So okay, I continued with g6, and now b3, another shock, and a system I don't know anything about. I continued bishop g7, bishop b2, castles, bishop g2. So Stephen's gone for a very unassuming double fianchetto variation. And I had to think about what setup to go for here. Generally, I don't like playing d5, which is a perfectly good move. It's not a position I have any experience in, and I prefer putting my pawn on e5 rather than d5. This is a more positional move, so I ruled that one out. my next thought was, why not a5? Try to get a unique position using my a pawn, as you do in the Dutch. And this would have been a very interesting choice. But after 15 minutes thought, I decided upon a setup which I thought could give me good attacking chances and get me, you know, with that initiative. And I think this was overconfidence on my part. Also, you know, I was really hyped up for this game. I wanted to win at all costs, because that was, I thought, my chance to win the British. So I took overly duly optimistic risks. And again, this is a mental thing I think we all need to consider when trying to improve our game. So I decided upon going d6, and now e5 if I get a chance, so d4. And now, rather than playing a sensible move like c5 here, which is obviously something I considered, but I assumed this might be theory, the idea takes and then a check, and I recapture back a bit like a dragon. It's okay for me. I decided upon playing c6, and the idea, and I decided upon this setup before playing d6, was after castles, playing the very weird move queen to a5, which is often a move that is seen in the King's Indian, but a bit of a lack of experience on my part here was that in this particular setup, it doesn't work as well for black as in some of the other lines. Okay, so my idea, what is my idea of this weird move? My idea is actually taken from a Dutch defense, and this shows you when ideas cross over, and it's to go queen h5, bishop h3, knight g4. So against, you know, a weaker opponent, if white continues, let's say with knight here, for example, I would go queen here, I don't know, e4, I would play something like bishop here, and like, you know, maybe rook e1, knight g4. This was the setup I was aiming for when I have some chances later on to attack on h2. And again, this is a very common thing. Now Stephen played h3, and this was just a very wise, sensible decision. And this is where, you know, I continued with my plan, queen h5, attacking h3, and Stephen just played g4. And this was a really, my next move was kind of like, you know, I don't want to swear, but it was kind of a F it decision. You know, sometimes you have an F it decision, and I should change that all in above me to F it. Should we do that? I think it's appropriate for this game. Let's do that now. Let's change that one, because this was an F it moment. And you will know what I mean when, there we go, that's more appropriate. F it moment, fudge it moment. Here, I played really a ridiculous decision, a completely crazy decision. I mean, I can still play this position and maybe move the queen back to a5 and try to say, okay, well, this g4 move has potentially weakened you. I don't know if this is necessarily sound, but once I've done this plan, I want to try to follow up with some logic. And maybe then next move go h5. Let's say knight d2, h5. And if something like g5, you know, I can move the knight d5, h7, something like this. And I can say, okay, well, you're overextended. You've weakened your king side, and I can get some squares with, you know, on the king side if white plays badly here. And this is okay. This is still a very playable position. But F it, the fudge moment, I thought, I've seen this sacrifice before. Let's go for it. And this was a very optimistic move. It shows that I am far too optimistic at times. I need to level myself out. And also from a psychological point of view, if you look at a lot of my losses, they are self-inflicted rather than afflicted from the opponent. Now, I'm not taking anything away from Stephen, who played fantastic in this game. But had I just played a normal game and given myself a decent chance, why not just try to outplay him slowly? I don't need to force the positions, but there's a very fine line with me, because obviously I want to, you know, the way I play, I want to take opportunities when they're there. But playing bishop takes g4 and knight takes g4, getting 2 pawns for the piece and some vague attacking chances is just not a good enough idea against someone so strong. I mean, I was dreaming of pushing the pawn, bringing my knight in, pushing the pawn to e4, these kind of ideas, and of course trying to come into h2 with a big attack. But there's no immediate threats. It takes me a lot of moves to even get any threats. I only have 2 pieces attacking. My opponent has this great knight. He has other pieces he can bring around. It's just a really ridiculous decision. It's the worst decision I made in the whole British Championships. And obviously I was incredibly annoyed with myself after this game because, you know, as we're going to see, it goes downhill. And we'll have a look at the rest of the game. But this was the key actual idea. And I've just gone mental. I've just gone completely mental. There's a fine line between being mental and playing brilliant attacking ideas. This is mental. And, you know, I mean, this might work again against a lesser player, but this is the British bloody Championships. It's not amateur Patsaville, Bunnyville at the local club after 10 points. It's not a blitz game. Maybe I've been playing too much blitz chess. You know, it's something I need to work on for my next tournament. Don't lose the plot. So Stephen developed, and he wants to bring his king towards where the action is, the king side. All that Stephen has to do, really, is avoid getting checkmated, and then he should win this game. Now, the other idea is maybe go e4 and bring the knight to g3. I'd seen this, so I played f5. And even here, I was vaguely confident, which, again, it just shows a real lack of understanding. Because I thought, okay, well, this, you know, I'm going to go e5, e4. Maybe get rid of this knight. This pawn might be able to come in to f4. I might be able to go g5 in this position and even do the rook swinger. I thought I had good play here, but I mean, all credit again to Stephen, who played very, very well. He first of all played rook e1, and this gives him this maneuver, knight f1. He's getting his pieces to the area of the board where the action is, standard defensive maneuver. I developed my last piece, knight d7, and now the knight did come round to f1. And again, there are other options for me here, but they're just not working. I don't have enough threats, and it's far too slow, my attack. I decided to bring this one around with the idea of coming into e4 and of course going for f2. And again, even here, I was stupidly confident. I wanted to meet knight here with queen h6. And I was looking at some lines with bishop at c1, f4, and these lines were very attractive. And probably black's better here, and it just shows you how well Stephen defended, because there's a lot of ways he can go wrong. He played very good defense, you know, with g5 coming. This is a very promising position for me, actually. But Stephen played a much better move. My idea is just to come in and another piece attacks. He just played e3, and after my knight jumped in, he just played rook e2. So he's had to find all these moves. Now e3 and rook e2 might look like an easy idea to find, but it's actually not that easy. You know, you're looking for other options and you've got to find these precise moves. And here I've got 3 pieces attacking, but what am I doing? He's defending everything. I haven't managed to create any meaningful threats. I played g5. One thing you can say is at least it's consistent. And the idea is to potentially bring my rook in, potentially at a later moment to get this knight out of the way and play g4. And now again, a very good move from Stephen. He can go wrong here in numerous ways. I mean, for example, knight g3. I was kind of hoping for when I can take this one off. And now I have such ideas as e5. And again, this position looks very promising for me. Remember, I do have 2 pawns for the attack. So if I win one more, I've got enough material anyway. But with the idea of going e4 and getting rid of the knight and trying to come in here, and my pawns are starting to slowly come up the board, this looks like totally decent compensation to me, at least. So even here he can go wrong, and he now finds, again, the way he played, this is something that I think, again, lots of weaker players defend badly, and you know, it's something we all need to improve, our defensive play. What would you play here? This is a good moment to pause. What would you play to defend here? There are a number of ways you can go wrong here. And again, he has to find very accurate moves. Pause if you need to. Well, he played the best move. Knight on 3 to d2. Just trying to cleverly swap off my aggressive pieces. Remember, if he defends, he wins. I was hoping for knight h2 as well. Another move that demonstrates how things can go wrong for him. When I have a number of tempting options here, but simply knight takes, and now g4 is very scary. The knight can come to g5 and then try to come into f3. My rook can come round, and I even have ideas of g3. So even this is very dangerous. But after knight to d2, I suddenly thought, oh yeah, this is not so good, because he can play f3 and my pieces have to move backwards. If I take here, he's swapped off a main defender. It doesn't look good. So I came back trying to keep some pieces on the board. Another good move from Stephen, e4. He doesn't sit there passively. If he does sit here passively, I will go e5, e4 myself, and I only improve my attacking chances. And after e4, I now thought my best opportunity was to take, knight takes, and play knight d5. If my knight gets to f4, again, I may be doing very well. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces attacking, but now very clever defensive idea. And again, throughout this game, put yourself in Stephen's shoes and try to find the best defensive moves. It's very easy to throw this game away. I mean, knight f4, if this knight comes in, I'm probably better. So he played knight on e to g3. My queen has to move. I don't want to go back. And now he played a very good idea. Bishop takes d5, getting rid of that best piece of mine. This may look a little bit funny because the bishop is generally a good defender, but in this position, his knights do a fantastic job of defending. Now again, chess is all about tempo and time, and in this position, if it's my move here, I would play rook to f3 and again have great opportunities with my other rook coming into f8, and maybe I'm close to winning in these lines. Just imagine that. If my rook comes in and my other rook comes over, I've got ideas against f2, against g3. You know, it's still very dangerous. So the next move again, perfect defense. Queen d3. Simply covering this idea and also preparing to play f3 and kick away my last piece. And it was just around here where I started to realize I'm probably going to lose this game. For example, I wanted to play rook f4. If I get 2 more moves in, I'm okay. But I realized after the move f3 here, I have absolutely nothing. No way to do anything, as try as I might. He's got too many pieces defending his king. I've got too little attackers. And again, when you're starting these attacks, you should really ask yourself, how many attackers do I have? I only really had 2 or 3 here. How many defenders my opponent have? He always had at least the same. So just, you know, just from very sensible thinking, it's not going to work when it's an equal force against an equal force, generally, unless there's a very good reason. So it's a flawed attack. So I tried knight h6. I didn't know what else to do. Stephen got greedy. He took on e7. Rook f4. I'm trying everything I can. Queen b5. Got my last piece in. Stephen, very greedy, took this one. Knight to f5. Queen takes d5. King to h8. And there were still chances to even go wrong here in this position. For example, I think Stephen was planning, he said after the game, rook f7. But in actual fact, I don't know if that was what he was planning. It was some move like that. He could be, I mean, he could be losing. I just take it and I have a move with my knight, like knight takes d4. If he checks me here, I come here. And all of a sudden, I'm coming in with a monstrous attack. I'm winning here, actually. So, again, there's only one good defensive move here. Well, I mean, I thought actually queen h1 might be okay, but he played rook e4. Again, swapping off my best pieces. I tried queen g4, trying to get my knight to that square. But now, knight h2. And after queen h3, he just took on f4. And then he gets rid of my last piece. And of course, around here, there's no hope. Queen f3. Can't swap queens. And now king h1. The rook is coming over to g1. And he's a piece up. I have no attack. Nothing going on. I can never play moves like this one because he has a queen a8 check and checkmate to follow. So it's flawed. So what can we say from that game? Well, first of all, well played to my opponent, Stephen, and he defended very coolly, very calmly. He didn't get thrown by any of my moves. In order to be a good chess player, you have to have a good mentality when you're at the board. It's key. I've seen so many talented players not fulfill their potential because of, I wouldn't say weak mindset, that's not fair, but a mindset that is not required for chess. You know, you need to have a certain concentration value and put away any problems that you have when playing. From my own point of view, what can I learn? Well, I can learn that, you know, I love playing aggressive chess, but I don't need to try to force things too quickly. I mean, the whole around here, I saw this sacrifice and it was very unclear, but it just wasn't good enough. So, you know, I know my stars play aggressively, but I've got to be a bit more grounded and be a bit more patient in some ways. Wait for opportunities, not try to force them. Be prepared to sometimes play the positional game. So after that, if we look at the scores, you can see we were on board 2 there, and I had unfortunately now dropped down, but I was only still here, you know, a point behind the leaders with 3 games to go. So not a bad situation, even after that loss. And I had 2 whites to go, probably. So I still had a great opportunity to, you know, if I won the next 3, I'd still win the competition. So there was still a chance. And it's, you know, again, like they say, not how you fall always, but how you come back and get up again and fight. So the next round was a key game, and probably one of the most exciting games of the British Championships, which I will, of course, bring to you soon. So when I'm talking about the opening, obviously, in hindsight, I should have played the Dutch. I don't know why I didn't, you know, but it's one of those things. I mean, at my level, when you're playing other Grandmasters, if you play the same opening all the time, not anyone really does this nowadays because of computers. It's too easy to walk into a line they're going to be comfortable with. I'm quite convinced the Dutch is a perfectly sound opening, but you want to try to shock your opponent a little bit, or get him out of his comfort zone. So not walk into what he's prepared in every game, because he'd be feeling a lot more, you know, comfort. Clearly, it didn't work for me here. Clever strategy by Stephen, and well done to the chap, and well done with his professional career now. I hope he can. Going from strength to strength. He clearly has the potential to be 2600 and above, so wish him luck with that journey. Okay, thank you. I'll be back again with more videos shortly.